politiko, yung mga corrupt na mga bureaucrats, DPWH officials, at yung mga corrupt din na mga contractors. Lahat sila corrupt yan. Lahat.
Hello everyone, for my one-on-one today, I am very honored to have with us Ramon Magsaysay awardee, former Senior Associate Justice and former Ombudsman, a woman of integrity, Conchita CARPIO-MORALES. Ma'am, magandang hapon po sa inyo. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for taking me here.
Justice Morales, you've seen corruption in government up close. You were ombudsman for 7 years. Today, when you hear about the alleged flood control scandal, the corruption, the anomalies, what was your immediate reaction?
Of course, I was sick and tired. I thought that corruption had been minimized, but on the contrary, it was worsened. Well, those PDAF were so widespread, but they were not involved big amount as the amounts now. Now we are talking of billions and not only millions. And the sad part about this is that some, if not most, of the legislators are involved here.
Now, billions are in question. Ghost project, favored contractors, kahit po recycled funding. In your view, in your long years in government service, is this just incompetence? Is it a systemic issue? Or is it deep-seated corruption?
Deep-seated corruption, it's intentional. It's not incompetence. It's intentional. It's avarice. It's greed. It's, people are just after money. So materialistic. There's a mix of cultural reasons and probably greed for money, because you don't know if corruption spawned from utang na loob or what.
You were ombudsman during a time when high-ranking officials were investigated, charged, and actually convicted. Now, looking at the hearings...
Not all are convicted.
Dapat
In
mas
fact,
marami.
the big fishes were spared.
What is stopping today's anti-corruption agencies, be it the Ombudsman or any other, from doing the same? What's the problem?
There's no transparency in our system. Everything was shrouded in secrecy, and whereas probably the higher officials noticed that there were a lot of corrupt activities, they tolerated them.
The ICI, ang binuong ICI ni Pangulong Marcos Jr., are you optimistic with the investigation, the powers, and the results?
Well, to begin with, I cannot be optimistic because the hearings are supposed to be held in secrecy. They don't involve the public. I don't understand why, because even the courts, sitting as courts, it's open to the public. It's only when in the interest of morality and decency that the judge may conduct hearings in private. Ito hindi naman morality or indecency. Immorality and indecency. Indecency not in the literal meaning of the word. So I don't understand why they don't do it transparently. They don't do it publicly.
The ICI said they don't want trial by publicity.
The mere fact that Congress or Senate conducts hearings openly, it is not trying by publicity. Because people who will decide will be the ICI people, but their decision will only be recommendatory. It should be the Ombudsman really who should do the investigating. But today, there is no Ombudsman yet.
I'm curious, were you ever offered to join the ICI? Because you have so much feedback from people saying Conchita CARPIO-MORALES should be in the ICI.
I don't know if I should reveal this publicly. Yes, I was. I was asked to be the legal representative because they said they wanted an engineer, and that's Babe Singson. They wanted an accountant, that's the lady from the CISIP Gores, and they wanted a lawyer. So they tapped me. So I said, I'm too old for that. And then they said, no, you're not. And then I said, I don't think I can handle that. No, you can. And then they said, please, for the love of country. Oh, of course, I've always loved my country. They insisted. So I said, I'm impervious to influence. I was very frank. I mean, that was, I think, to be the last straw. So I said, I don't like it if and when I should be there. I don't like anyone to interfere in my work. So, and all that, there was no reaction, but basta they said, please, for love of country. And then, so, okay, give me a day to reflect on. And then they said, no, I'll give you 1 hour. Then I said, no. Then they said 2 hours. Okay. In the interim, I tried to conjure things I would be putting as condition in the event. I would not be honest if I say that I was not open to it, but I was not very sure about it. So I had a mental exercise. I said, what will I put as conditions? Of course, one of the conditions was that they should not interfere in my decision, however I wanted to conduct the investigation. 2 hours never came. I didn't receive a call, neither did I call. Why should I? Was I salivating? No way.
At palagay nyo, bakit na hindi tumawag? Because you said you were impervious to...
Maybe. Of course, you have a lot of conjectures, but that could have been one of the reasons.
Would you have taken it?
No, if they accepted my conditions, I would probably have taken it. Conducting hearings in secrecy, I would not have allowed that. So I would probably have been fired. See? If I were fired, look at that. I would mutilate my pristine, I'm sorry to say that, pristine reputation.
Are you satisfied with who makes up the ICI today?
Well, I like Babe Singson. I know he's very honest.
Yun na po yun.
Yun na.
Paano po yung the representative of the justice system?
Well, let the people judge, but they cannot judge him because the conduct of the hearing is secret.
What's your reaction that Benjamin Magalong resigned from the ICI as a special advisor?
Yes, nasayangan ako. But then again, I don't know if the word getting around is true that he was practically asked to resign.
Sabi na may conflict naman ako being the mayor and at the same time being a member of the ICI. By the way, I'm not a member of the commission. I'm not a commissioner there. In fact, sila nga yung gumawa ng workaround nun na legal advisor investigator. Pero inis out na ako nun eh. Tinanggal na nila lahat. And then suddenly, here comes a below the belt naman na accusation na ay dahil merong project si Diskaya doon at maanomalyang tennis court. Ay, sobra na yan. Yun na hindi ko matake. Di ba? Parang pinapalabas mo pa na korap ako. Ay, dyan na. Mag-aaway na tayo dyan.
Are you hopeful first that justice will be served, that genuine changes will be made?
Insofar as the ICI is concerned, as I said, their findings are merely recommendatory. It's going to go to the Ombudsman or to the OJ. If it goes to the Ombudsman, if the Ombudsman is not satisfied with the fact-finding nor would like to adopt the recommendation, the Ombudsman can have an independent, separate investigation. So it would be an exercise in futility. Unless, of course, the results of the ICI would be, it will make it lighter for the Ombudsman to conduct investigation.
Now, should the Ombudsman just be doing the investigation? Nung panahon niyo po, wala namang ibinuong komite.
Motu proprio.
Oo.
The trouble is that there's no permanent Ombudsman. It's an acting ombudsman. In fact, the first acting ombudsman was removed. If you believe Senator Amy Marcos, she did not like, I said allegedly, she did not like to issue a clearance to Remulla without going through the process of checking whether the case was good for disposal or the case was good for, segueing to the preliminary investigation.
What is happening to the Office of the Ombudsman now? How does this affect the way it carries its obligations and responsibilities?
I really don't know how much power the acting ombudsman is being given. I think Deputy Ombudsman for the Visayas, and he's merely appointed as or designated as acting ombudsman.
Sa ngayon, isa po sa posibleng maging ombudsman ay si Justice Secretary Boying Remulla. May opinion po kayo doon?
I don't know him that well. Actually, what I know is what I read only.
What kind of person should be appointed as ombudsman? What qualities?
Well, as I have always said, he should be a man or woman of integrity, of competence, of industry. May integrity ka nga pero tamad ka naman. So you're not doing anything, wala kang production. Pero you are also productive, you are industrious, but you are a man of integrity, of dishonesty, or you are a man of corruption. Walang mangyayari. Ba? You are judged by how you handle the office. If you have integrity, have competence and industry.
In 2016, when you were ombudsman, you ordered the dismissal of Senator Joel Villanueva and 9 others. This was in 2016. You found them liable for the misuse of the former party list representatives' 2008 PDAF funds. Now, Joel Villanueva is under fire again. The Senate then refused to act on your order of dismissal. Balikan natin yun. Now that the accusations are similar in nature, what can you say?
Well, it would depend if he is again found criminally liable or probably administratively liable. I would not dare predict what would happen because sometimes you expect something to be done, but you're disappointed.
But in 2016, when you ordered his dismissal, the Senate refused. And should the Senate have followed?
Well, they should have. Otherwise, everybody wants to be a senator, and because of any infraction of the law that you commit, you will still remain senator.
The Ombudsman ordered a senator's dismissal. Hindi sumunod ang Senado as a body. They all cooperated as an institution. Anong naging epekto noon sa atin?
Well, we are the laughingstock of other countries because we don't know how to enforce our law. We don't know how to implement the decisions that are spawned from legal proceedings.
Nung panahon po ninyo, PDAF ang issue. Ngayon naman, it's insertions in the budget for flood control projects. What do you believe will be the outcome?
Aaron, it would depend on who will be the one to decide. If the person to decide is a man of integrity or the institution to decide is composed of people of integrity, I am very optimistic that something, concrete will occur. But if these officials who will decide what will happen will scratch each other's backs, goodbye, the pessimism comes in.
The President said wala siyang sasantuhin, kamag-anak man, kaibigan o kaalyado. Do you believe him?
I won't even give him the benefit of the doubt.
Why is that?
Well, because there have been some instances where he had said something, but he did not comply with it, or he welched on his promise.
So you don't...
But there's always a first time. No, my question is, why did not Martin Romualdez ask the DFA to cancel the passport of Zaldico? He seems to be, covering up for him. He seems, I said, I did not say. Because to date, while they may have undertaken to cancel his travel authority, his passport is not being canceled. But it should have initiated by Martin while he was speaker.
If this government is serious, what actions should they do to bring Zaldico back home or bring him to justice? What can they do?
Well, cancel his passport.
That's number one.
Because since there are no charges yet, they cannot order his arrest. Nakalagay sa dyaryo, hihingin daw nilang Interpol. But there have been no charges. What they probably would do is to summon him to answer questions, but he's not being summoned.
Flood control, we've discovered, has been a milking cow for corruption.
Yes, even entire country, even in Ilocos Norte, it's the Viscayas who are the contractors. All throughout, but they are very selective. They only concentrate on Mindoro, Bulacan, whatever.
So ang tanong ko, why is it with our modern systems and our laws, it's still so easy at this point to rig infrastructure projects, give kickbacks, considering may ombudsman naman, may hustisya naman?
No one, or they're closing their eyes. Let's say may ombudsman nga, pero kung hindi naman gumagalaw, he is not doing anything, and no one wants to, to be a witness. As I said, they scratch each other's backs. Kumikita eh.
What was the ombudsman's problem?
Well, it was the most difficult problem was gathering evidence. For example, the PDAF, there are 100 beneficiaries all throughout the Philippines, okay? So, of course, random lang. They would go to Sulu, ang layo-layo. The threat to life and liberty is there. They would go to Cagayan and all that. When they reach the place, let's say there are 10 alleged beneficiaries. 9 of them they say, no, we did not receive any amount. Given the number of violators, given the number of purported beneficiaries, wala ka namang mag-gather. So, in the few times that you can gather, all right, you file a case, sasabihin nila, this has been pending for a long, long time, and therefore, there has been delayed justice and all that. So, it depends in a long, long time because you inherit an old case and then you check 40 of the 100 beneficiaries. It takes time. And then after the fact-finding, if you believe that there's no probable cause or you believe that there's no reason to segue to preliminary investigation, you dismiss the case. Now, if you go to preliminary investigation, again, it's difficult to conduct preliminary investigation because the respondent is abroad. When he comes back from abroad, he says, oh, I need a lawyer. You allow him to get a lawyer of his choice. So many reasons and all that.
Palagay niyo po ba si Zaldico makukulong?
Well, if he is convicted, makukulong yan.
Aabot kaya doon?
Of course, why not? If the charges are proven to be right, correct, see, he would.
But then, may mga nakulong na po noon nung Napoles case.
Senators, 3 senators,
Oo.
and a president, hindi naman yung PDAF yun. Si President GMA, she was detained because of the sweepstake case, I think.
Palagay niyo po ba sa Pilipinas ang hustisya pagdating sa politiko ay nagagamit rin politically? In other words, are political enemies just using accusations against fellow politicians? Is genuine justice served?
All right, even assuming that politicians are against their fellow politicians, still we go by the evidence. If the evidence is there, why not? You indict him in court. But if it's a mere, harassment or what, then if the judge is fair enough, then he will dismiss the case.
What about the status in the Philippines? Do you believe that to be true?
I don't know if it's that rampant, no? But by all indications, kung na-acquit sila, despite the strength of the evidence, something must be wrong with the system. Something must be wrong with how justice is dispensed.
If you were to change or improve the justice system in the Philippines, what would you do?
Well, to begin with, you have to appoint justices that are straight. No matter how good your laws are, if the judge is corruptible, walang mangyayari. It will be the same. You see, up to now, there are some justices who are, I want to use the generic word judges who are corrupt. And yet, they are not weeded out. Medyo takot ang mga tao magsabi because if you bribe a judge, you are equally guilty. We have to have a judicial and bar council that is fair, that's neutral, because as I said before, members of the judicial bar council are reappointed. Now, if you are appointed, you have to cater to the politicians who will be the ones who will pass over your qualification in the commission and appointments. So, ikaw naman, pagbigyan mo siya kasi gusto mo ulit maging member ng Judicial and Bar Council. So, if the Constitution were to be amended, there ought to be no reappointment of a member of the Judicial and Bar Council.
That would change everything.
Well,
Kasi hindi ka na sisip-sip sa politiko.
Yeah, that would not necessarily change, but it will at least make a difference.
You've dedicated your life to justice. With cases like this that's happening today in 2025, do you feel that structurally the Philippines can still change or it's too broken at this point?
I wonder if the politicians who are involved in all these anomalies are, scared of what happening to Nepal. Did you see that finance minister who was thrown to the water and they joined him there and boxed him? Good, he was not killed. I don't know if he was killed, but they did not report it. Anyway, there ought to be, some strict, I am again referring to appointments, strict vetting with respect. Because if the judge is honest, no matter how much you try to influence him, if he cannot be influenced, he will stick to the law. But if you are, the trouble is that if you join the government, people, it is culture. People expect you to have, you are staying in a, rickety rock apartment. At the moment you become a public official, parang people expect that you will have a nice house, you'll have flashy cars, you send you send your children to schools abroad. You cater to the expectation of people. So, ikaw, whereas you had a humble life before, masaya ka na. But then again, keeping up with the Joneses, that's our culture.
Dapat po ba taasan ang sweldo?
Mataas na nga ang sweldo yung mga iba, but, they are insatiable. Yung greed nila.
How did you resist temptation? Let's start with that. You won the Ramon Magsaysay Award. What was it like growing up? Why Conchita Carpio-Morales is the woman she is today?
Your reputation precedes you. If you are, in the first place, honest in the beginning and you are consistent about it, they will always give you the benefit of the doubt. Kahit anong chismis nila, binigyan raw si Chit, nagbiyaya siya. She was given $50,000. People will still believe na hindi siguro totoo because kilala namin. But if you are corrupt, na sobrang corrupt ka talaga, if people say, oh, she was given so much and all that, people will believe even if you did not. And they still believe even if it's exaggerated. So your reputation precedes you. From the beginning, you should show that you are a man of integrity and you lead by example because yung mga agalamay mo, takot rin gumawa kung ang kanilang boss ay hindi gumagawa. But suppose the president is corrupt, what will prevent the underlings from committing corruption? So leadership by example is important. And of course, values really start in the home, in the family. Values, virtues, and all that. That's what we should inculcate. And then it should be enhanced by education. Look, Singapore is really investing in education. And there will be less corruption.
Now, hindi lang po integrity sa inyo matapang din po kayo.
Oh, yes.
Oo, nung ombudsman po kayo, you investigated, I think, 4 presidents. Former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo for the sweepstakes issue. Jejo Marbinay, who was former Vice President, I think 2018 to, and his son on plunder cases. Tama po, ma'am, no? At hindi lang po yun. You also have the late President Noynoy Aquino, who appointed you as ombudsman. And then also you stood up to former President Duterte himself, who, by the way, wanted you impeached.
Yeah, he wanted me impeached and he had his Galamais filed the impeachment complaint. Unfortunately for him, it did not lift up. And he filed 2 cases again through his Galamais. 2 before the Supreme Court, 1 for disbarment. What did the Supreme Court say? You cannot disbar a person who is impeachable. You cannot counteract the law. So they dismiss it. Then another one, for overstaying as an ombudsman, they thought that since my predecessor resigned and she had a few years left, that was only the number of years that I was supposed to hold office. But the law says that when you appoint an ombudsman for any reason, if the predecessor did not finish the term, he or she is given a fresh term. Talo sila. I'm a survivor.
Looking back, natakot ba kayo noon kay Duterte?
Never. Siyang natakot sa akin. Yes, natakot siya sa akin. Kumeto siya.
You stood up to Duterte. People know you are related to Vice President Sara Duterte by affinity.
Yeah, but in fairness to Sara, she never, well, at least on the surface, she did not show any hostility against me. When my husband died, she asked when is the wake. So my brother told him that ganito, ganyan. So it was vacation time, January 3. She flew all the way from Davao to attend the wake. And then she asked, when is the annulment? I said, maybe 2-3 days from now. And she stayed up to the annulment. She attended the annulment. So at least may civility naman siya. And she was aware that I was at odds with the father. Pero siguro sabi niya, ang tatay ko talaga tarantado.
Ngayon pag-usapan natin si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. The Senate took a vote in favor of house arrest. But then of course at the end of the day, it's the International Criminal Court who will be making the decision. Dapat po ba ma-house arrest ang dating Pangulo?
Why should he be subjected to house arrest in the first place? That would be double standard. Why should the ICC adopt double standard? Because we detest double standard. Sa atin may double standard. We detest it. Now, why should Duterte be given house arrest? He's enjoying his solitary confinement naman eh. Umayant ng araw.
Humanitarian reasons. Sinabi po hindi niya matandaan ang ilang bagay-bagay. He may not be able daw, he may not be fit enough to face trial.
Well, I don't know if like the Supreme Court, what they did to Enrile, they let him go out on bail even if unbailable ang plunder for humanitarian reasons. The oddity is that he did not invoke humanitarian reasons to go out on bail. He invoked humanitarian reasons to be in hospital arrest. Those are my frustrations.
Kasi pumapayag tayo.
Yeah,
Namimili tayo.
yeah.
Sinabi nga daw nila sa Pilipinas, pag mahirap nagnakaw ng tinapay, diretso sa presinto.
Correct.
Pag mayaman, may due process.
Yes, overdue process.
Yun ang words nyo, overdue
Yeah.
process.
Well, you are your own witness. You are your own observant. We have to admit that there's double standard.
Let's talk about the late President Noynoy Aquino. He was the one who appointed you as ombudsman. He actually got you out of retirement, right?
Yeah.
And yet,
I administered his oath of office.
yeah, he chose you over the
The
late
Chief Justice.
the late Chief Justice Corona. In 2017, you even affirmed the finding of probable cause to charge Pinoy before the Sandigan Bayan.
Yes.
Did his appointing you affect your decision?
No.
Did you go through a process?
No, never. In the same manner that Gloria was the one who appointed me as Supreme Court Justice. In the same manner that Binay was, past tense, my friend.
And yet, when it comes to decision-making time, you don't let friendship, you don't let power, you don't let relatives by affinity or real affect you.
You have to have your own principle. If you drown your principles because of relationship or of utang, that's what I was saying again. The mix utang na loob, they mix cultural ties with how you decide cases. If you are firm in your decision to apply the law to a T, then I think you will go through the storm.
Sa lahat po ng mga kaso na inimbestigahan nyo when you were ombudsman involving presidents or vice presidents, ano yung pinakamahirap?
Kay Pinoy, because there were so many charges, they wanted him charged for homicide through reckless imprudence. Paano naman yung mga yan? The homicide through negligence. I did not see any negligence in the evidence that was being confronted. So, paano mo namang iyan dyan? So, nahirap yan. You have to remove the chaff from the grain. And in fact, I had so many meetings with the investigators. I saw to it that, because they would probably charge me of favoritism if I let him scot-free. Why not? You let him scot-free. I don't care if they charge me of favoritism if I can defend my decision. So, that was the most difficult. Otherwise, dali na yung iba.
Nung dumating kay dating Pangulong Duterte,
I recused.
oo, and this was...
Because that was keeping true to form dahilan sa, he had some cases before. I recused also. Sarah had that case. I recused also. In fact, I let my deputy ombudsman, the deputy ombudsman overall, si Orlando yata, Casimiro nun, I let him do the investigation. And then I think he faulted Sarah and he even showed me the penalty. I said, don't show it to me. I don't care what penalty you're going to impose on her. Si Chuchua.
Chuchua, natawa naman po ako dun sa inyo.
Nagchuchua siya sa akin, papakita niya sa akin yung penalty. I didn't care. I recused already. I wouldn't modify the penalty. If he said he would put hell to jail, I don't care. Diba?
At ganun dapat ang ano.
Yes.
Ang hirap naman nun, parang para sa Pilipino, hindi ganun ang kultura.
Kultura, correct. Yeah, that's where our culture is mixed up with, what is right and wrong.
And how can we change that for the next generation?
Well, values formation early on sa family. It's during their formative years na nag-i-stick sa kanila yung good values, good manners and right conduct. Dapat isauli natin yung good manners and right conduct sa curriculum ng elementary school eh.
Do you think we will ever change that as a people?
Maybe a revolution would change it.
Isa pang revolusyon? You think EDSA 1 was not enough?
Well, it's not that it was not enough. It was enough, it's a revolution, but it would depend on the people manning the government.
To close, President Marcos Jr. has 3 years left. How would you describe his administration today?
Well, people admiring him for having licked this flood control project. But he may not know it. He might be liable. Probably he thought that he would, weather his administration with flying colors. But while you may see the sincerity in him by trying to change things that have turned sour, people are also not optimistic about his present disposition of or present administration. The way this flood control thing is turning up, look, they blame him for Magalong's resignation and all that. They blame him for trying to interfere in this ICI. Because that's just the trouble if you are a president who does not have immaculate background. People could hardly give you the benefit of the doubt. So they still blame him for Magalong's resignation, whether or not it is actually he who forced him to the wall is another matter. But if the president is really sincere in making use of 3 remaining years as president, he could still try to improve his image. Otherwise, we are going to perdition.
Other than image, what do you believe should the president be doing today to really change the Philippines for the better?
Well, we have a lot of problems. It's difficult really to be president. So I don't know who his advisors are. He ought to have good advisors in order to carry out his mandate as president. It's really difficult to be president. We have a big amount of utang. See? And then he's trying to sweet everything, like returning the money to PhilHealth, and trying to give 20 peso a kilo rice. And labas daw. I don't even know. I just
Meron
heard
naman
it.
po, oo, nagsimula po. Pero sa pananaw nyo, sapat po ba ito? Ito ba ang kailangan?
Cosmetic lang yan. Wala yan. You solve the corruption. That's the number 1 burning issue today, corruption. What could rightfully go to public services, health services, and all services that the people need, they go to the pocket of the corrupt.
And do you think corruption will be solved?
Corruption can never be solved. It can be minimized. The Philippines has no monopoly of corruption, but at least it should not be as scandalous as the corruption that's facing us now. It's too much. For 3 years, this scandalous corruption went on. I'm sure they sensed the presence of this, but why did not cut this in the bud? And look, like Amlak, they are in possession of records of this Kaya couple, 450 bank accounts. Hindi ba red flags yan? Why did that call the attention of people? The presumption is, maybe I'm right or wrong, is kumita rin sila. Lahat kumita.
So, yun ba yun or are we lazy? Ganun ba yun? I'm curious. Is
Hindi
it
lazy.
corruption
No.
or are people... Or
It's
are
intentional corruption. Hindi pwedeng nagkataon lang na ano. No. Intentional corruption yan. Hindi pwede nagkataon. No, sige na nga. No, never. From the start, you're hungry for money. You're hungry for power.
Sa mga nanunood na kabataan ngayon who could be the hope of the country, what can they do? What do you want to tell them?
mga bata, habang kayo ay bata, you have to absorb good values of honesty, integrity, of respect for the law. Hindi pwede kayong palawi-laboy lang. Hindi pwede kayo na, lahat naman gumagawa. No, you cannot do that. You parents, give time to your children even if you are busy working. Give time for them, inculcate in them the values, the virtues of honesty, of everything that has to do with good principles and good moral conduct.
Sa lahat ng nangyayari ngayon, sa mga pagdinig ngayon on these flood control anomalies, ano ang kahihinatnan nito na gusto nyong makita?
That justice will surface. Hindi pwede yung paano-ano lang, cosmetic lang na pakunwari investigating lang. But there ought to be a concrete result that will lead to the severe penalties imposed on these malefactors.